We have some big things to talk about today. AMC stock is issuing a dividend in the form of new shares. So this is crazy news. Essentially, there's going to be a brand new quote unquote stock in the market, ticker symbol APE, with AMC. And we're going to talk more about this in a couple minutes, but it's an effort from AMC's management team to help out some of these retail investors. But we have some other big things to talk about related to Square earnings as well. Coinbase's massive deal with BlackRock. And then we also have some pretty important data coming out tomorrow. Today's episode is not one you want to miss. Make sure to stay to the end, guys. We have some big things to talk about because some crazy things happened today. So, Tom, we'll start off with one of the weirdest news articles we've seen in a while with AMC. So, tell us more about these APE shares.
Yeah, this is going to be big. Like you said, AMC is going to be issuing a dividend in preferred shares here under a new ticker symbol, APE. So that's pretty much going to be a whole new ticker that's trading. It's going to be pretty big, obviously. Like you said, the CEO is trying to help out some of these investors, known as apes, you would say, who helped rescue the chain from the brink of bankruptcy, as they say here in this Wall Street Journal article. But Mike, this is huge. Pretty much they're going to be issuing 1-for-1 shares here. So there's pretty much 516,820,595 AMC equity units now, and then they're going to be issuing 516,820,000 preferred equity shares back in that form of that dividend. So it's pretty much a 1-for-1. Pretty much if you hold 100 shares of AMC right now, you will get 100 shares of this new ticker symbol APE. So it's very interesting, Mike. They did report earnings too, where they missed slightly on EPS, but they beat slightly on sales. Their stock is down in after hours, though, nonetheless. The crazy thing, though, is going to be this new ticker symbol. I cannot wait to see that come onto the market. Hopefully that actually helps generate some good hype here coming with AMC. And I'm sure that this is going to be a pretty talked about event as we kind of lead into that new ticker coming onto the market.
Yeah, so AMC reported earnings today. You know, like we just talked about, it's doing this weird stock dividend ape thing. Realistically, it can bring in some hype, but right now the stock is definitely falling in after hours. So it's a very weird event. So just keep that in mind, but we've definitely wanted to update everyone about it.
Yeah, definitely. And one big thing about this is that they say the move is a workaround after it failed to garner shareholder approval to let it issue more common shares. So it's very interesting. They're kind of like it says here, working around that failed shareholder approval. So it's going to be pretty big. I think it's going to be a big event either way. I'm not sure it's going to really help out their stock much, Mike. I think that AMC is getting a little bit desperate here. You know, they've been falling down a lot. Looking at their chart, at their yearly chart, they're definitely down a lot over the past couple of years, and especially even over the past 6 months. They're down quite a bit, but I will say the past week has been pretty good. They had some nice positive momentum before tonight, of course.
True that. So one other thing to know about this is this APE ticker symbol will start on August 22nd, 2022. So keep that on your schedule. But Tom, we have some other important things to talk about. Coinbase has a massive deal with BlackRock. Basically what happened is Coinbase partnered up with BlackRock, and the giant whale investors that use BlackRock to manage their assets, they will, if they wanted to buy cryptocurrencies, that will be done through Coinbase. This is a pretty big win for Coinbase. The stock just blasted up this morning. It was truly skyrocketing. It kind of calmed down a little bit, but Tom, we could see Coinbase opened up in the morning right around, what is that, $80 or so, and ran all the way up to 116. Right now it's right around 90, but this sure did bring in a lot of hype for Coinbase.
Yeah, it really did. And that's going to be pretty big for BlackRock's investors. So hopefully that really helps them out, obviously. And maybe this will help Bitcoin out as well. Obviously, just it's more positive news for Bitcoin. Obviously, more people can now invest in it. So that's always good. If they did end up closing up 10% today. So pretty good closing for Coinbase. Like you said, though, it could have been a lot higher if they would have closed somewhere up around 100 or even 110, like where they went this morning. But yeah, it looks like they are turning back up now. Coinbase is one of those crazy stocks. It's been going down a lot lately with crypto and everything like that kind of falling off. But as of the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of momentum. It's been bouncing a lot off of these bottom supports. And, like we said, it was a pretty good day overall. I'm pretty curious to see what this one does tomorrow, Mike, because like we said, it ended up falling down quite a bit here towards the end of the day. So I am a little bit worried it might keep pulling back, but hopefully we get some good momentum coming back in, especially with all these new investors coming in to maybe help buy some Bitcoin.
Alrighty. Another thing we have to talk about is Square earnings. So Square, aka Block, initially ran up after they reported earnings, but has since fell down a little bit. What is interesting to know about Square is they've been blasting up over the past couple of days, actually even the past couple of weeks. So they had a low of $56 back on June 17th. Right now, they're basically at $90 or so. You could say 85 in after hours. But they actually started to really pop off after PayPal, which is one of their competitors, reported earnings. Since then, Square is kind of flat. But Tom, how are these earnings looking, and what do we need to know?
Yeah, they're actually looking pretty bad here in after hours. So, like you said, the stock's down a little bit. Overall, their earnings were pretty bad. But Mike, there was something very interesting that we'll talk about with Bitcoin with Square. But overall, Square's earnings were not too good here. You can see they said that revenue dropped 6% to 4.4 billion as Cash App transactions for Bitcoin fell. So, like I said, we will get into that a little bit more. And then overall, Mike, the revenue obviously fell year over year, which is not good, as they say here up at the top of the article. But like I said, that stuff going on with Bitcoin is very important. So can you kind of fill us in here? Because these Bitcoin numbers are pretty crazy, actually.
Absolutely. So I own Square. I like this company. I believe in it for the long term. And what was slightly worrying about this earnings report is that their revenue, not even their earnings, not even just their profit, but their revenue decreased. But there's a caveat to this. So we can see right where Tom's highlighting, we can see that their revenue in 2021 for this quarter was around $9.7 billion. Their revenue for this quarter for 2022 is $8.3 billion. This company is growing a lot, but to see that big of a revenue drop is concerning. So when we look deeper into it and we look up very slightly, we could see when we break down their revenue into segments, we'll start all the way at the top. Their transaction-based revenue last year in this quarter was $2.1 billion. Same segment, but to this year, their revenue is $2.7 billion. So basically, for their transaction-based revenue, they grew their revenue from $2.1 billion to $2.7 billion over the course of a year. That is awesome. Next segment, subscription and service-based revenue. Last year, it was $1.2 billion. This year, it was over $2 billion in revenue. All right, hardware revenue. Last year, it was $720 million. This year is $850 million. Again, another big increase. But here's where it gets scary. Last year, their Bitcoin revenue was $6.2 billion. This year, it went down to $3.5 billion. So that's where all of the miss came in, basically. In all of their other business segments, not only did they grow their revenue, but they grew it at a pretty good pace. But just that gigantic decrease in Bitcoin revenue is what kind of just threw off the revenue segment of Square's earnings, which is interesting because it's not 100% their fault that the Bitcoin market slowed down and the cryptocurrency market overall slowed down. So overall, I still like Square. I believe in it. It is worrying to see revenue decreasing, but when you look into it more, you can see it's not as bad as it seems initially.
Yeah, it's really not. And that's huge, Mike, to go from 6.2 billion down to 3.5 billion. That's really telling there, obviously. And as we know, the price of Bitcoin's been going down, and that could affect a lot of companies that have dealt with them. I know that Robinhood's been another one that obviously hasn't done too well because a lot of the trading activity has been going down. So yeah, it's definitely a big thing to look at for Square. It dragged that revenue down. But like you said, if this revenue would have even just stayed the exact same at 6.2 billion, we would have had a nice increase. So overall, I think it's actually pretty good for Square. But nonetheless, obviously, the stock is down a little bit. I'm curious to see where this one ends up, Mike, because we have seen a few stocks lately kind of come back the next day after these earnings. So hopefully we see them come back. I know that we've seen it happen a lot over the past few weeks, but we'll have to see what happens. But talking about earnings, we have some more big ones on the radar for tomorrow. We're going to have DraftKings and then actually some marijuana stocks like CGC reporting. So going to be a big morning tomorrow. I know DraftKings is one of our favorite stocks, Mike, and they actually had a very good week. They were down a little bit today, but I mean, just look at the past month with them. I mean, they've been really coming up from lows.
I love to see it. Let's go. So tomorrow will definitely be interesting with earnings. What I am a little bit, I don't want to say worried of, but I would not be surprised if we see DraftKings earnings kind of already priced in. You know, looking at the stock like many other stocks over the past couple of weeks, some of these stocks, like even DraftKings included, is up over 60% from its lows. You know, just a couple, I guess almost 2 months ago or a little over 2 months ago, you know, DraftKings was below $10. Now it's at 16. It's like, yeah, it's up 60% from its lows, which is good, but it's also, you know, still down a lot over the past year. But realistically, you know, it is a tiny bit overbought in the short term. So just keep that in mind heading into the event.
Yeah, and the algo is even giving it a little overbought signal right here too. So yeah, definitely be careful of it. Hopefully these earnings just help us keep propelling to the upside, but I am definitely a little bit worried about it. And DraftKings does do a lot better in the winter seasons, guys. Keep in mind that whenever they start reporting earnings over the next couple of quarters, once the football season starts, I think that they'll end up doing a lot better. But for right now, I'm still a little bit worried about DraftKings in the shorter term, but it is what it is. But as far as events go tomorrow, Mike, we do have some pretty big ones coming out tomorrow. We have the unemployment rate for July along with non-farm payrolls. These are two data points that people really keep their eyes on. I know the feds look a lot at these payrolls, and then obviously the unemployment rate is huge too. So keep your eyes out for that. It looks like they're forecasting 3.6%, which is the exact same number as the previous report. So we'll have to see what happens, Mike. But hopefully these job numbers show that the economy is still doing okay. Because I know lately everybody's been saying, well, we're not technically we're not technically in a recession because, you know, the jobs numbers are still holding up well. So we'll have to see if they're still holding up as good as people are saying.
True that. And guys, if you like our videos, make sure to subscribe. We post brand new videos every single day, so definitely make sure to subscribe and let us know what stocks you are watching in the comments down below. We might cover them in the next video. But I also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day. Huge shout out to Man in the StockedUp Discord. You've been super helpful with all of your earnings information lately. So thank you so much for sharing that data. We really appreciate it. So huge shout out to Man. But Tom, it's now time for the momentum plays. With the first one, we have Apple, and we need both levels on this one.
Yeah, so Apple had a pretty crazy day, like you said, kind of all over the place. But if they end up breaking above this intraday resistance right around 166.10, then I'll look to play it to the upside. And if they break below 165 here, which is an intraday support, then I'll look to play them down. I think tomorrow morning, though, they might end up going up. It looks like they had a pretty good close here at the end of the day.
All right, with the next one, we have NEO to the upside.
Yeah, NIO, a pretty good play here today. Go ahead and make them break above that intraday resistance right around 21.20.
Sounds good. And with the last one, we have GLD, also to the upside.
Yeah, GLD really exploded, 1.65% only, but you know, for a slower moving stock, it had a pretty big move up. Go ahead and make them break above 167.30.
Sounds good. So we're watching GLD, NIO, and Apple for potential day trades to the upside tomorrow, only if they break above the levels Tom listed. And then we are also watching Apple for potential day trade to the downside tomorrow, only if it breaks below the level Tom listed. But overall, Tom, I'm very excited for the market tomorrow. We have a couple key economic data points set to release, like we talked about a couple minutes ago. We have DraftKings earnings, so you know it's been a pretty good week so far, and tomorrow's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it definitely has. And as far as like the SPYs movement, I'm really kind of liking the way that we're setting up, and we held up pretty well today, given that there was some selling pressure in the market. There's a pretty big support on SPY here, right around 412.50 to 413. I've been seeing a lot of bounces right here, Mike. I know that we've been talking a lot about these support and resistance levels in Discord today as well. So definitely keep your eyes around that 412.50 to 413 area. If we fall below that, I feel like the SPY could end up being a pretty good play to the downside tomorrow. Obviously, like I said, a lot of selling pressure kind of came in on a few key stocks today. So it was very mixed. Like we saw, the SPY ended up closing down just slightly in the red, but nothing too crazy. I will say though, as far as like some stocks to the upside, AMD had some pretty good intraday news today. They ended up really blasting above $100, which I thought was a very key breakout today, up above 101. So yeah, they had a really nice break. Look at AMD on that daily chart. It's starting to get really overextended as we head up into that resistance. And the algo just gave an overbought signal today. So be a little wary with this one tomorrow, guys. I mean, it's up a lot, but we just had that huge 6% move today. So always be a little careful.
You know it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you liked the video, and let's end the week strong. Thank you guys so much for watching.